Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I am Skyler James, and today we're going to be looking for free money. That is specifically if you were self-employed, an independent contractor, or a sole proprietor for any amount of time in 2019 or 2020. President Biden and the White House released huge changes to the Paycheck Protection program this week that may affect you. This will be a short video, but very important, even if you just know someone who was self-employed in the last couple of years. Now, let's first cover the differences between independent contractors, freelancers, gig economy workers, self-employed with no employees, solopreneurs, sole proprietors. There's a plethora of different words. For the purpose of this video and for the Small Business Administration's PPP calculations, there is literally no difference whatsoever. They consider them all the exact same thing. There are even limited liability companies, also known as LLCs, that can choose to be sole proprietors or get their taxes viewed as sole proprietors. The key is that you'll need to have filed a Schedule C in 2019 or 2020. This reports an income or loss from a business as a sole proprietor. For the sake of not getting tongue-tied, I'm going to refer to the Paycheck Protection Program as the PPP. So far, there have been two PPPs. PPP 1, that was released in the summer of 2020, and then PPP 2 that was released in January of this year. Let me start by walking you through a story of something that happened last week. So I was at the gym. Yes, our gyms are open where I'm at, which I'm very, very happy about. And while I was there, I was talking with the gym owner about the latest PPP funding round. And my workout partner overheard us talking about it, and he walked over and he proceeded to lament that he was self-employed in 2019 and that he was going to apply for the PPP 1, but when he looked into it, turned out that it was a loan that he was going to have to pay back, and it wasn't something he was cool with, so he said, you know what, I forgot about it and I didn't apply for it at all. I immediately paused and reflected on what he said. That was me pausing and reflecting. What he was describing is exactly who the Small Business Administration is supposed to help through the PPP program. And it sounded like he just completely misunderstood the program. And unfortunately, he wasn't alone. I asked around to a few other sole proprietors, and a surprising number of them seemed to misunderstand the purpose of the PPP and what it was intended for. It was actually intended to replace the income of sole proprietors. This might be a larger miss than many people, and especially the SBA, realize, because 73% of total businesses in America are sole proprietors. To make sure I wasn't missing something, I asked my friend to gather his tax documents and meet me later that day. So when we meet up to look at his docs, it turns out he actually has two IRS Schedule Cs. Now, this is important. Schedule Cs are how you tell the IRS that you're a company, and even if you think you're an independent contractor or self-employed or sole proprietor, this is how you let them know that you have an income and a loss. Now, let's walk through his example. The reason he had two Schedule Cs is that his wife is a hairdresser, and she was actually paid as a 1099 independent contractor. So she therefore had to file a Schedule C. So it turns out that she also qualifies for the PPP program. For his specific business, he made $85,000 in gross sales. So then on his taxes, he wrote off, say, his cell phone, travel expenses, his home office. They amounted to about $45,000 in total expenses. So he netted $40,000 in net income for 2019. So now we're going to dig just a little deeper into the math, but bear with me, it's actually quite simple. So the PPP program is meant to replace 2.5 months or 10 weeks worth of earnings. So let's walk through that. His annual income of $40,000 needs to be broken down into months. So $40,000 divided by 12 months equals about $3,300 a month. Then you multiply that by 2.5 months and you get to $8,300. And when we did those same calculations for his wife, she qualified for about $5,000 in funds. So that combined with the $8,300 was about $13,000 in funding that they were able to apply for. Now let's touch on the big difference between self-employed people applying for the PPP and larger businesses. Let's take the three words within the PPP. You have the Paycheck Protection Program. So what the SBA was trying to do is they were trying to ensure salaries or payroll through a paycheck protection. So larger companies, they wanted to make sure that they were actually rehiring employees, and through rehiring employees, they had to spend at least 60% of PPP monies on payroll of some sort for their employees. But from the IRS and the Small Business Administration's viewpoint, every dollar of net income that a sole proprietor makes is actually payroll. They pay taxes on every dollar of net income. To replace their income under the Paycheck Protection Program funding is they should pay out all of the money that they get to themselves, because that is what it's intended for, as payroll purposes. Since this conversation went down last week, I wanted to check in with them and see how their application process went. They said it took them about 5 hours to apply for it, and that they were approved within 2 days time frame and then funded 2 days after that. So it took them about 5 hours worth of work to get $13,000 in funding. So this works out to be $2,600 per hour of work. Not many people make that kind of money per hour. Wow, so this seems nice already, but it gets even better from here. Since they just applied and were approved for the PPP 1, now remember there is PPP 2 also, they are able to reapply for the exact same amount of money for the PPP 2. This is pulled from the SBA.gov website. It's an FAQ, so frequently asked question, on PPP 2 eligibility. If you qualify under the criteria, now there's quite a few different things, so you'll definitely want to read through those, but if you qualify for the first and the second one, you'll want to focus on this specific sentence. It says, if a borrower previously received a first draw PPP loan and will or has used the full amount only for authorized uses, then they can go ahead and immediately apply for the PPP 2. So the big word in there is will. So theoretically, if you were to get a PPP 1 loan funded today, you could turn around tomorrow and apply for a PPP 2 if you think you will spend all of those funds within the allotted time. Why this is so important is because the program actually runs out in March. So you would have to get on it very quickly to make sure you get both PPP 1 and PPP 2 funded before the program closes. The way it will work for my friend is they'll disperse the funds over the next 2 months and then reapply for another $13,000. It'll probably take them an hour of work because they've already gathered all of the documents. That's $13,000 for 1 hour's worth of work. But it gets even better than that. The Biden White House released changes to the PPP calculations this week, and they were tremendous. They made the program even better for self-employed people. The new changes now say that you get to take the gross income rather than the net income for the calculations. Now, the reason for these changes is the Biden administration realized that even though these sole proprietors were shut down, that these expenses didn't go away. Take the cell phone expenses, for example, or some of the travel expenses, or a home office. These are all expenses that still exist for these sole proprietors. And when you combine that with the belief that the latest round of PPP funding will not be spent by the time it closes at the end of March, there's more incentive for the Biden administration to loosen their standards so they can get this funding to the most needed companies. This is $52,000 tax-free and fully forgivable by the SBA. This all started because they misunderstood the program and its intentions. So I'm asking that if you know anyone that has earned any money whatsoever in 2019 or 2020 as an independent contractor, now for that, think about Uber, Grubhub, massage therapists, artists, Amazon delivery. There's tons and tons of examples of independent contractors or gig economy workers. If you think you know of anyone who is self-employed, sole proprietor, solopreneur, any of these other words to describe it, please refer them to this video and encourage them to start researching and finding out more on the SBA.gov website. If you found this helpful or entertaining, then you're a nerd like me. And you should leave a comment, like, or subscribe, and most importantly, send this on to someone else who you think might benefit from this video. Also, I've created an email to respond to any inquiries relating to this video. I'm glad to chat for 10 to 15 minutes with anybody about this topic. The email is SkylerJamesPPPHelp@gmail.com, and it's in the link in the description below. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.